How's it going, everybody? Tommy here, along with my co-host Nick, talking about wrestling. How's it going, Nick?
Good. How's it going for you?
Going good, man. Going good. So, let's basically what we do here. We talk about things that are going on in WWE, Impact, Ring of Honor, New Japan, Indies, any and all wrestling. We're going to talk about it. Talk about the shows. Talk about some news. Talk about things that might be going on, and I guess we'll go ahead and start here with the Raw show from this past Monday. Man, this show was not very great, which I guess isn't surprising. But we started off, we had Elias. Well, first off, they had, the Baron Corbin and Lashley and all them in the ring starting out. Elias saved the day by coming out singing a song. Elias is awesome. Man, I didn't know after they decided to switch Elias to babyface. I was really, really nervous about how they were going to treat Elias after that because WWE is terrible right now with baby faces. They can do all right with heels, but man, every time somebody becomes a baby face, it's the same old formula, just the same pandering to the crowd. Be sure you're smiling all the time. Like it's just so generic. It's like you can't get that works for some baby faces, only like one or two. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't have every baby face act the same. It comes across as corny, and no wonder everybody likes heels more. Like it's obvious that people like heels more than baby faces because it's kind of easier to like heels, but also because the booking of the baby faces was just so damn terrible.
Yeah.
So the first match after the song was Lashley versus Elias. Man, the thing that came across to me more than anything is just, man, Elias is a damn superstar. He's main event ready, man. To
He
me,
needs a title.
yeah, to me, he could be the Universal Champion. I mean, he could be the top guy. I shouldn't say I don't think Vince is going to put him as that, but I would kind of be surprised. But then again, I mean, Elias, he's not a smaller guy. He's got size. He's not as big as like a Braun Strowman, but, he's got the size. He's got a look. He's got charisma. He's got more charisma than the majority of the people on the roster. I mean, he's a guy that you could really,
He can
build
play
around.
with the crowd. He's got good crowd interaction.
Yeah, he's great. There was a lot of outside interference stuff going on. I could see Elias maybe going into a feud with Drew McIntyre next, which would be a million times better than this feud with Lashley. Man, the one spot in the match that was really good was Drew did this like inverted slingshot type move to Elias, where he picks him up and just drops him like a slingshot onto the steel steps. Like that's pretty devastating looking. That was a good spot. And we're not going to go through every single segment on the show. I mean, if you want to know every segment, you'd have went to results and seen that. But we are going to talk about just some of the things that kind of stood out, things we liked, didn't like. I know everybody's been going crazy and raising hell over Dean Ambrose's comments about Roman Reigns. He's a heel, man. Like, that's, one of people's complaints, and rightfully so, that, heels don't do anything to make them a heel anymore. And Dean is doing something here to make himself more of a heel. I know some people say, hey, you're talking about somebody's real life personal health issues. But I mean, man, it's a TV show. If you look at it like that, like imagine you're watching like any other TV show You know what I'm saying? Where somebody's making fun of somebody's health problems or something like that happens. It's a TV show. You know, this isn't real life, people. So I mean, get over it. I mean, he's
Kind
getting
of,
himself over as a heel.
it kind of seems like a connection to where you remember when Jerry Lawler had a heart attack, and like
Oh yeah,
Dolph Ziggler was saying that he caused it
yeah.
because he super kicked him in the heart, I believe, earlier on.
I think that was this. Didn't he wrestle Ziggler that night? I think
I
he
believe
wrestled
so.
Ziggler that night, and Ziggler did those like he always does this spot in the match where he does like an elbow, 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 elbow. He does like 5 or 6 or 7 in a row, like doing elbow drops on somebody, and I think that was what it was. But either way, yeah, it's basically the same thing. And I mean, but a lot of people are a lot more pissed off right now over this.
Yeah.
And to me, it was a good heel promo. Dean's way better off as a heel. Most wrestlers are better as heels anyway, and wrestlers, most of them say they like being better because it's easier. It's easier to be a heel. You don't have to try as hard to be a baby face. And for Dean, the thing that's always got me, I like Dean Ambrose, but
They keep pushing him too far to think that he's crazy when he doesn't really do that much.
exactly the whole they've always called him this lunatic and all this stuff, and it's like, man, what has he done to make him seem like a lunatic? You just keep saying it, but he doesn't do anything to come across that way. And as a heel, he can do that, and it's working now. You know, um,
Yeah.
so yeah, that the Lucha House Party, man, those are three great wrestlers in a dead end gimmick. I mean, Grand Metalik is awesome. Uh, man, they could make him the next Rey Mysterio if they wanted, but that's definitely not going to happen. But they could. He's
You
that
said
good.
that about Kalisto as well.
Yeah, Kalisto's awesome. I mean, like I said, they're three great wrestlers in just this going nowhere gimmick that's a joke. I mean, that's what it is. They had a match against Revival. It wasn't a bad match. Definitely some minor botches in there, but and the thing that I found funny about that match was that was more of what a 205 Live match should be than every other match that's on 205 Live. Like the thing that gets me is that they made this cruiserweight / 205 Live, division, and yet they wrestle like everybody else wrestles on Raw and SmackDown and every other roster. It's like if you have this 205 Live deal here, why are they not wrestling like cruiserweights, like the AAA style, or the to me WCW Nitro, they had the perfect uh you know
Cruiserweight
cruiserweight division because it was different. Their style was different than everybody else's on the roster. Now I get it, nowadays, with guys like Seth Rollins and guys like this on the roster, yeah, the action's a bit more fast paced and more risk taking and stuff. I understand that, but 205 Live should be, you know, 5 or 6 steps above that. They should be going way faster, way more risk taking. That's what it should be. Otherwise, it's just what it is right now, which is seen as like a C level group that nobody watches, which is unfortunate. But I mean, you can't blame them when they're not doing anything special with them. And then we had Lars Sullivan promo package. Um, I like Lars Sullivan. He reminds me of just like an old school, bruiser style wrestler. And right now they're teasing. They did it on SmackDown as well, as whether he's going to sign to Raw or SmackDown.
probably Raw.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
They always go to Raw. Did you notice?
yeah, pretty much. But with SmackDown going to Fox, they could use more guys. But then again, Lars Sullivan isn't exactly a huge star or anything at this point, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't think SmackDown really has like a big.
If he goes to Raw, I would love to see a Braun Strowman feud.
That could be good, or it could be just really ugly.
It can go both ways.
Yeah. I mean, I like Braun Strowman. I think he's really good, but you know, I don't know how well they would work together. And one of the worst things on Raw, this was terrible. I mean, it was the Nia promo. Oh my God.
Yeah, I like her. She is not that good at acting.
It would have to improve to be horrible. That's how bad it was. I mean, it was seriously just it was cringeworthy. It was so damn bad. AOP versus Gable and Rude. AOP, I don't see what the upside is for them. I never liked them ever since NXT. I don't know. And to me, they're just two guys that are just there. I don't know. Gable and Rude are awesome. I mean, they're two great wrestlers. That I mean, obviously they're put together just to tear them apart at some point. And we had Rockstar Spud wound up peeing on Bobby Roode's robe, which was kind of funny, you know, especially on a PG show. But yeah, we had Jinder against No Way Jose. That who cares? Rollins bringing back the IC Open Challenge, Intercontinental Title Open Challenge, and Ziggler answered. Rollins beats Ziggler again. Ziggler loses. Man, I could go on for an hour about how Ziggler has just been screwed time and time and time again. They kill him. I don't understand why. I mean, he's one of the most talented wrestlers on the roster, and they don't care. They don't want to use him. I don't know what it is, but man, he's so damn talented. He's so good, and I will always say this. I've been watching wrestling since around 1990, and you know, and I go back and watch all the old stuff from the 80s and even some from the 70s. I've consumed a lot of wrestling in my life. I'll just say that, and I don't. And when Ziggler cashed in the Money in the Bank and won the world title the night after WrestleMania, that was one of the biggest damn pops I've ever heard in wrestling through all these decades of watching. But they didn't even follow up on that, even while he was world champion.
After that, at the Survivor Series match, Ziggler was the one who pinned Seth. You know which one I'm talking about? The one with Sting showing up and.
Oh yeah.
And Ziggler was the one that won the match for them.
Yeah, he's just been treated as their whipping boy for some reason, and I mean.
And then I was reading this on Twitter with Dave Meltzer, and like someone asked him what would happen if Ziggler went into the Indies. And he was saying that he doesn't believe Ziggler has the mentality for it, because if he did, he would already be there. And so maybe after WWE, after he's done with them, he's probably just gonna be done with it altogether.
Well, I mean, he also does comedy. You know, he does a lot of stand-up comedy as well on the side, and I mean, if he doesn't have the mentality for indies, I don't know if I would say that. I don't think that he necessarily wants to go to the indies because, you know, he wants the WWE. He grew up watching WWE, and that's kind of, I mean, a lot of these guys that are getting, you know, jobbed out and just not getting used right, a lot of them could go to the indies and make a decent living and, you know,
Yeah, like look at Cody. Like I don't
Right.
like him.
But a lot of these guys, they're happy where they are for a few reasons. They have, a contract where they're going to get paid regardless. They're on TV, even if it's just for 15 seconds to get squashed. They're on TV. And, a lot of them grew up watching WWE, and this is kind of like their dream to be in WWE and on WWE television. So, some of them are just content with doing that. There's nothing wrong with that. If that's what you want to do, then that's fine. But I do think if Ziggler left WWE and went to the Indies, I think he could be a huge star on the Indies. I do. Because
Yeah.
he's got the talent. He's just that damn good. Also, we had Corbin versus Balor, another just who cares match. I feel like they've wrestled like 30 times in the past month. I know that's an exaggeration, but geez, it just seems like it. And I just so over that, don't really care. So that was Raw. And like I said, there's a couple segments that we didn't really get into, but they were definitely nothing worth talking about. The majority of that stuff wasn't worth talking about, but SmackDown was a terrible show as well, maybe worse, which usually isn't the case. Sometimes it is. It's not like SmackDown is always better than Raw. To me, probably the most standout thing was the Jeff Hardy 20th anniversary celebration deal, but I still feel like they could have done so much more with that. I know they could have done so much more with that than having like a 7 or 8 minute segment. I mean, you could have built that up throughout the whole show, like showing these highlight segments throughout Jeff Hardy's career.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the night, he'd come out there and have that speech and all that, and Samoa Joe do his deal. But yeah, Samoa Joe comes out there, interrupts him, talks about his personal demons, and that was kind of surprising that they would bring something like that up. But I guess it goes back to the Dean Ambrose Roman Reigns deal, where that kind of stuff's really not off limits. But
I heard like Samoa Joe is basically like sampling off of CM Punk's promo. Like back when
basically they did have the same basis on their feud where, CM Punk, because it just made sense. CM Punk straight edge, drug free, and then Jeff Hardy, of course, was not drug free.
No, he's not.
So they kind of the same thing, I guess. It's just something easy for them to go off of to start the feud.
I heard that like CM Punk actually had heat with him backstage as well.
Well, there was something there, because there's a video online, I'm sure you can still find it on YouTube, where Jeff Hardy is like really buzzed out of his mind off something inside of a diner. And he's like, CM Punk, you don't take drugs. Well, I do. So fuck you, or something along those lines, and it's pretty crazy, man. Like you could tell he's just way messed up out of his mind. And it's a funny video to watch. I'm sure you can still find it on there. But so, yeah, I'm assuming that there is some heat somewhere there. I don't know where it came from or what it's about, but apparently there was some sort of heat there. But Joe, I guess, now is moving on in a feud with Jeff Hardy, which should be good. Joe's awesome, man. As far as promos go, as far as heel promos go, he's probably the best in WWE right now. Man, he's on fire right now with his promos and his matches. And yeah, which I've always liked Samoa Joe since I first saw him, in TNA.
Same.
So yeah, that will hopefully be some good matches. I guess it depends on how hurt Jeff Hardy is. I don't know what kind of shape his body's in. Like there's there for a while, you could really see, man, he was just limping and hurting every time he was going out there. It probably wouldn't be the worst idea for him to just take some time off, but who knows how long his contract is with WWE. They might want to try to get everything they can out of him while they can, and then again, they might think he's going to mess up again, so try to get everything out of him now.
That's a shame that his brother had to cut off early.
Yeah, I don't know what the deal is with Matt Hardy and all that. I mean, it was never really explained. And I don't know if Matt's going to go on and start doing indies again, do the broken gimmick again on the indies. I don't know. I would like to see it.
He's doing videos on YouTube with the gimmick.
Yeah. But I mean, as far as going out and, doing it at shows, I'd like to see it, but
he's got an injury and I believe he had to retire or something. Something's intertwining with the spine, something like that.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We know how retirements in wrestling goes. So they usually don't stick. But we'll see.
Well, I'll get into it when I need to.
What is it?
It's NXT.
Okay, yeah. Let's go ahead and get on NXT then, because, man, there wasn't nothing on SmackDown. It was just – there just wasn't anything there. We had the Usos against Sheamus and Cesaro for the 300th time. And
did you miss out on the Daniel Bryan promo?
From last week?
Or was that last week?
Yeah, Daniel wasn't on this week. It was AJ. AJ came out and did a promo about Daniel Bryan. But yeah, NXT Take Over this past weekend. It was good. I liked it. The War Games match was cool. Aleister Black, man, Aleister Black is just awesome. Yeah. Unfortunately, I fear for when he goes to the main event, the main roster, and who knows what they're going to wind up doing with him. They could make him an Ascension.
I don't think
ridiculous.
His character would develop well at all on the main roster.
It could, but as far as what they're going to do with it, it probably won't. I could see him being just another Ascension. I mean, Ascension was awesome. They were a great tag team, and they still could be in WWE, but some reason they brought them out there and just jobbed them out and made them a joke. I don't get it. I don't know why you'd want to do that. It seems to be a recurring thing with NXT guys. Another interesting thing, though, before we get into what you want to talk about, the NXT TakeOver. So Triple H on one of his conference calls recently talked about wanting to have territories all over the world. Like NXT, they like now they've got the NXT UK, wants to do it in Japan, wants to do it just everywhere. And man, it's interesting, but man, that is a lot of product. Like they already have so much product out there that it's almost, it'd be impossible to keep up with every little thing that they're doing right now. There's so much. And when you add on to that more, NXT brands that they want to have, man, it's just going to be ridiculous. But yeah, and he talked about how he wants NXT to not just
all the territories came together.
Yeah, and he doesn't want to just have NXT be a feeding system anymore. He wants NXT to also be a brand where guys can come in and have their whole career there. And that honestly wouldn't be bad for a lot of guys. I mean, we've seen guys who were great in NXT and then go to the main roster and just get buried or, get misused. So it probably would be better that way, to have some talents, just have their entire career in NXT, but they would have to also financially, compensate them for that. So that way the talents will be fine with staying in just NXT. But yeah, so what were you want to say about TakeOver?
I loved the Aleister and Johnny Gargano match. I think heel Johnny will be just as good as he was as a face. Like, there's something about Johnny Gargano that I like. Like, I loved Johnny Gargano since I first saw him. Same with Ciampa. Ciampa was the same way, which he had a good match. Forgot who that was against. Who was that?
Ciampa. I've always liked Ciampa since I first saw him too. Back in Ring of Honor is when I first saw him when he first came into there, and I could tell he had something then. Johnny Gargano, honestly, I didn't care too much for him when I first saw him. I guess it must have been back in probably PWG. I don't remember what year, but I saw him first on a PWG show and just didn't really care too much for him. I felt like he was kind of bland and just kind of nothing great about him. But I've become a fan. I do like Johnny Gargano now. And yeah, dude, him and Aleister Black did have a hell of a match.
The War Games, it was good. I liked it. I didn't like how it ended out, but I did like it. I wish that Undisputed Era one, they had, like, Ricochet. I don't like him at all.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Ricochet. He's just
a spot monkey. That's all that he is. Like,
yeah, I agree. I mean, look, I like a lot of, lucha guys that are, fast, crazy dives and just, I'm all about high flying, crazy stuff like that too. But, even in like AAA and CMLL, there's at least some psychology, in the majority of the matches. There's still some that are like, what the hell is this? But, the majority of them, there's still some sort of psychology and a story in the match and all that. But yeah, Ricochet just, I don't know. He's just
rated.
Yeah, I'm just not a fan at all. Yeah, Undisputed Era probably didn't need to lose that match. I don't understand why they had him lose the match. Because surely they're not going to be going up to the main roster or doing anything like that. So
no,
at least not anytime soon. But
I don't even think when they do go to the main roster, they'll all be together. They'll probably be split up.
That's possible. I mean, it's still probably too early to tell, but
or have like Adam Cole go on by himself and then have Roddy and Bobby and Kyle O'Reilly on their own down in NXT.
Yeah. I mean, I like it to see them just stay together and be brought in as a group and just kind of wreak havoc over Raw or wherever they go. But because there really aren't stables anymore in WWE, like I go back to like 98 WWF when there was like, I mean, tons of stables. You had like DX, you had like the gang warfare going on with DOA and Los Boricuas and Nation Domination and like all these groups that you had back then. And nowadays you don't have stables. And if you do, they're only together for a little while. Then they're only put together so they can break them up again. Kind of like what they do with tag teams. That bothers me so bad that like every tag team is basically put together in WWE just with the idea of them separating and feuding, a couple months or 6 months down the road. And that just aggravates me so bad. Like it's not a bad story idea if you do it every once in a while. But when you do it all the time, it's like people are just waiting for the partner to turn on the other because it always happens now. So, back in the day, you wouldn't do that all the time. So when a partner would turn on their tag team partner, then it'd be like, oh, wow, what? I can't believe that just happened, And nowadays, everybody's just waiting for it because that's the only reason they put anybody together in a tag team anymore.
And to me, I don't know about you, but I think Undisputed Era is probably the best faction that they branded in a while. Like WWE is, as of late, has been terrible with doing stables. Like they did Core and Nexus. Those were terrible.
Well, it was a big deal, and they really had something at first with the Nexus. Like when the
Yeah,
Nexus did that brutal beatdown on the outside and Daniel Bryan choking Justin Roberts and getting fired and all that, like tearing the ring up, like that was a big deal. And like people were going crazy over that and it had a lot of people buzzing about it. But again, they just dropped the ball with it, didn't
they
care.
fed him. They
And
fed him to John Cena.
yeah, oh yeah, exactly. Like they've done with everybody the past 15 years.
Except for
So
AJ Styles.
yeah, surprisingly, he's the one. I guess John must really like him or something. So I guess moving on from WWE, go into a little bit of New Japan stuff here. Um, so right now, New Japan is going on with their World Tag League right now. I believe Sonata and Evil won it last year. And I'm thinking they might win it again this year. I could be wrong. They might not, but it's still early, so they might not win it. But I could definitely see them winning it. Um, there's not a lot of really good tag teams in this tournament this year. You know, you got Evil Sonata, which is really good. Um, you've got Michael Elgin and Jeff Cobb. Uh, yeah, there's just not a lot of really good tag teams right now. I mean, you know, you don't have the Young Bucks in there.
Wait,
Uh,
is this Junior?
no, this is the World Tag League. Yeah.
I
So,
know juniors. You have Yo and Show.
yeah. I mean, they still have them on there for like the pre-show matches because they have, you know, they still have the or the matches that are not in the tournament. You know, they still have them on there for stuff like that. Oh, and Chucky T, Chuck Taylor, and Trent, they're in the tournament and they're awesome, man. I would love to see them get a good push in New Japan, but I kind of doubt that'll happen. But because I've been a fan of Trent ever since I first saw him. I think the first time I saw him was in Impact when they were using, I think they used his real name, which was Greg something. I don't know. I can't remember what they used for his last name, but I've always been a fan of his. He's really, really good and really underrated. Let's see. I watched a little bit of the 205 Live this week, which is honestly the first time I've watched it in quite a while because, like I said, it's, you know, there's nothing special about it.
Land.
But there was a good match this week on 205 Live. It was Tony Nese versus Noam Dar. That was a really good match. And those are two guys that are good. And that match wasn't so bland as the other ones, you know, usually are. This one was actually pretty good. And, you know, kind of fit the 205 Live, you know, moniker a little bit more. And man, to me, the unsung hero of 205 Live is still Brian Kendrick. Like, I know he's like the veteran, so they're not going to, you know, give him the major push right now, but I really wish they would. I mean, he's so good.
I've always loved Brian Kendrick.
Yeah. And again, he's a guy that I've been a fan of ever since I first saw him as Spanky, you know. Yeah, way back in Ring of Honor, the first Ring of Honor days. So, but yeah, guys. So I guess we're gonna also one more thing. We're gonna have a segment here where we'll start doing next week. Where once a week we're gonna pick a show for us to watch, and we're gonna go back and kind of go through it match by match and segment by segment and kind of break it down and go over it. And the first one I'm gonna pick for next week will be WrestleMania 3, which is one of my favorite. Has one of my favorite main events of all time. It's the first thing that I remember watching as a kid. Not on pay-per-view because I was only like a year old, but on VHS, I remember watching this, and I've been a wrestling fan ever since. So we'll
It's
talk about that next week.
It's a
What's
good
it?
one. Alice Cooper's on it, so it has to be.
Yeah, Alice Cooper's on there. Yeah, dude, it's gonna be awesome. So we'll talk about that next week. And I want to thank everybody for listening. If you enjoyed it, like, subscribe, and I believe we have a Twitter page as well, Nick.
Yes, it is at Talks Nick.
All right, that's at Talks Nick. Join us up on Twitter. And thanks everybody for listening, and good night.